From the St. Louis Public Radio newsroom, this is The Gateway. It's Tuesday, July 23rd. I'm Abby Larico. Early in-person voting for Missouri's primary election begins today. No excuse is needed for registered voters to cast their ballots ahead of official Election Day, August 6th. Republican and Democratic ballots will also ask voters statewide to decide if Kansas City should be required to increase funding for police. The city's mayor is opposed.
This is a ballot question that asks in no unclear way, basically, to control the Kansas City, Missouri budget.
We'll learn more about the measure and why voters are seeing it for a second time coming up on The Gateway. A judge has ruled a St. Louis man imprisoned for 33 years for a murder he says he didn't commit should be released immediately. The Missouri Independent reports yesterday's decision comes after prosecutors had asked the court to vacate the conviction of Christopher Dunn. Dunn was found guilty in the 1990 shooting of a 15-year-old Rico Rogers. But key witnesses who named Dunn as the shooter later recanted, and St. Louis Circuit Attorney Gabe Gore argued he should be a free man. A St. Louis Circuit judge agreed and wrote in the order that Dunn would not be found guilty today. Prosecutors for the Missouri Attorney General's office plan to appeal, which would likely block Dunn's release. Illinois' senior Democratic U.S. Senator is now among several key Democrats to endorse Vice President Kamala Harris for president. Senator Dick Durbin Monday characterized Harris as a, quote, critical partner in policy wins during the past 4 years under President Joe Biden. He said he spoke to the vice president on Sunday.
I believe she is in a position to make a difference for this country, to move us in the right direction.
Harris collected several other blue-chip Illinois endorsements a day after Biden ended his re-election bid. U.S. Senator Tammy Duckworth, who was a Biden campaign co-chair, endorsed Harris, as did Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. A survey of Democratic delegates finds representatives are prepared to cast their votes for Vice President Harris. The Associated Press conducted a non-binding tally of those pledged to vote at the Democratic National Convention next month. It found more than 2,000 say they currently plan to support Harris, clearing the threshold of 1,976 needed to lock her in at the top of the ticket. 61 of the 70 delegates from Missouri say they're backing Harris. Illinois sends 176 delegates. Only 19 have been contacted for the survey so far, but 18 of those named Harris as their pick. President Joe Biden endorsed Harris immediately after announcing the end of his 2024 campaign Sunday afternoon. Missouri has one of the highest in-state answer rates for the 988 crisis helpline, according to a report released this month from a national mental health nonprofit. St. Louis Public Radio's Sarah Fenton reports the 988 number debuted 2 years ago after federal lawmakers funded a nationwide 3-digit suicide and mental health lifeline.
When people in crisis dial 988, their call is routed back to a local response center based on their phone's area code. The report from the nonprofit Inseparable found 94% of calls are answered in Missouri. Bart Andrews is Chief Clinical Officer at Behavioral Health Response, the 988 provider in the eastern part of the state.
We had a really strong crisis system to begin with, and we were able to layer 988 right on top of that, and it made a huge difference. So we're way ahead of a lot of other states, no doubt about it.
The report's authors note the state does not charge telecom customers a fee to help support the line. The group also found Missouri doesn't have enough crisis response teams or facilities to stabilize those having a mental health crisis. I'm Sarah Fenton, St. Louis Public Radio.
Voters in Missouri will see a familiar question on their primary ballot. Amendment 4 asks whether Kansas City should be required to increase its funding for police from 20% of general revenue to 25%. The amendment originally passed with 63% of the vote in November of 2022, but Kansas City Mayor Quinton Lucas filed a lawsuit alleging that the fiscal note summary on the ballot was so inaccurate that the election results should be thrown out. In April, the Missouri Supreme Court ruled in Lucas's favor and said the question must be voted upon again with revised ballot language, and it will be on August 6th. Reporter Gregory Holman spoke with Lucas about his opposition to Amendment 4 and why it matters to voters across the state.
It is important to make sure a voice is heard from everyone. And I think that the biggest threat to somebody in the Ozarks or anywhere else outside of Kansas City is that the state could do the same thing to you. This is a ballot question that asks in no unclear way basically to control the Kansas City, Missouri budget. It asks for the statewide voters to say that Kansas City needs to spend more on this one area of its budget, not spending more on certain areas that we fund all the time, like health care, paying for firefighters, paying to fix our roads, and paying to address core basic issues. And it takes that power out of the city council and out of the mayor's office and having an ability to do so. So I think the real reason somebody should care is if you're worried about Jefferson City bureaucrats or bureaucrats anywhere telling you what to do, then this is the very type of question that does just that. And that's why I'll be voting no.
I want to ask you about the perspective on Amendment 4 from folks who disagree with you. One of the main backers of Amendment 4 is State Senator Tony Luetkemeyer. Now, as many of our listeners know, the senator is a Republican. You're a Democrat, but the senator is a Republican from the 34th District near Kansas City. And Senator Luetkemeyer wrote an opinion piece about Amendment 4 in the Kansas City Star on July 2nd. He wants Missourians to vote for the amendment. He accused your administration of trying to defund the Kansas City Police Department by tens of millions of dollars back in 2021. And he writes that Amendment 4 would, quote, stabilize the KCPD budget, end quote. What's your response to this type of argument?
Yeah, I mean, Tony is just sadly wrong. First of all, when I became mayor, the KCPD budget, our police budget in Kansas City, was $261 million. Now it is $317 million. That is a substantial percentage increase over where it was before. I also, just last year, raised police salaries by 30%. And so this isn't an issue of funding of the police. Kansas City has consistently supported police funding. We just want to be able to be like every other city in Missouri and be able to make these determinations based on our own budgeting, based on our own negotiations, and frankly, based on being able to have some accountability. In what world do you say you get a blank check and we can't ask you any questions about how you spend your money? That's exactly what this ballot question is about. Currently in Kansas City, we have a 911 call taker crisis where there are people, happened to my own family, who call 911 and have to wait on hold for 5 minutes, some people as long as 10 minutes. And that has happened to thousands of Kansas Cityans. Under our current system, the city council, the mayor, others can't push the police to do anything different about it. Whereas what I want to do is say, heck, I want to give you money targeted to that very issue so that you can hire more call takers, so you can have more efficient operations there. This question precludes us from doing so. That's how it's a bad idea, and that's just one example. And so I would respectfully disagree with the senator. We spend a whole lot of money to support our police. We've increased it every year I've been in office, and I've been in office for 9 years now, and I think we'll continue to. We just want to be able to have good conversations, good accountability. And unlike the senator who was running for re-election when this last came up, and I think that was a big part of why this was introduced, I'm somebody who's term limited, and I'm just saying this for the best interest of Kansas City in the long term.
Mayor Lucas, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
That was Kansas City Mayor Quentin Lucas speaking with reporter Gregory Holman about his opposition to Amendment 4 on the Missouri election ballot August 6th. The Gateway is a production of St. Louis Public Radio, a listener-supported service of the University of Missouri St. Louis. Music by Ryan McNeely of Adult Fur. I'm Abby Larico, and from the St. Louis Public Radio newsroom, this has been The Gateway.